Maya didn't retreat. She stepped inside his reach, which was already insane. Her right hand intercepted his wrist with a sharp strike that targeted the nerve cluster between his exoskeletal plates. The blade dropped. Her left hand grabbed his descending arm and she rotated her entire body, using his forward momentum against him. Suddenly, impossibly, Brekdar was airborne. Not falling, flying, his massive body spinning through the air in a perfect arc, he landed with a crash that shook the floor panels. The practice blade was in Maya's hand now. She held it in a reverse grip, edged toward Brekdar, and her forward-facing eyes never blinked. The entire classroom sat in absolute silence. You could have heard a scale drop. Yield? Maya asked quietly. Brekdar stared up at her from the floor, his mandibles hanging open. Finally, he made the gesture of submission, tapping his thorax 3 times. Maya immediately extended her hand, helping him up with surprising strength for her size. Good match, she said. Your opening stance was excellent. That nerve cluster thing, though? Humans call it a pressure point. Every species has them. I realized my mouth was hanging open. Unprofessional. I closed it. How? Brekdar managed, his voice synthesizer crackling. How did you know where to strike? Anatomy class, Maya shrugged. Spent last night reviewing Crowin physiology. Your exoskeleton is amazing, really impressive, but the joints need flexibility. That means gaps. Gaps mean vulnerable spots. She handed the practice blade back to Quillan, who took it with trembling manipulator appendages. Who taught you that technique? I asked, my professional curiosity overriding my shock. My grandfather, Maya replied. He was military back on Earth. Marines, specifically. Said if you're going to fight, fight smart not hard. Also, physics is universal. Mass times acceleration equals force. If someone's coming at you with momentum, redirect it. Make their strength work for you. Physics, I repeated slowly. You used physics? Well, yeah, she looked genuinely confused by my confusion. What else would I use? What else indeed? Most combat training in the Federation focused on strength, speed, natural weapons. Humans, apparently, focused on turning the universe itself into a weapon. Class, I said, trying to recover my authority, what Miss Torres demonstrated is called leverage-based combat. It is a level 9 technique normally reserved for advanced students. The fact that she executed it perfectly on her first day is, well, terrifying, someone muttered from the back. Impressive, I corrected, though terrifying was probably more accurate. Let's have another volunteer. Someone tried to disarm Miss Torres now. Nobody moved. Not one student raised an appendage, tentacle, or limb. Come on, Maya said, sounding almost cheerful. I'm like 5'4" and weigh maybe 55 kilos. Surely someone wants to try. Still nothing. A classroom full of warriors from various species, all suddenly very interested in their data pads. This is ridiculous, I clicked. You cannot all be intimidated by one death welder who weighs less than most of your travel packs. Instructor, Quellin spoke up, a Vexarian whose species communicated through color changes in their skin. Her entire body had shifted to alarm purple. With respect, did you see what she did to Brekdar? He is our top combat student. She threw him like he was a hatchling. It wasn't personal, Maya interjected. Seriously, just physics and anatomy. Anyone could do it with practice. Anyone from your deaf world perhaps, Brekdar said, his mandibles clicking in what I recognized as respect. Tell me, Maya Torres, what else did your grandfather teach you? Maya's expression shifted, became distant for a moment. He taught me that the most dangerous thing in any fight isn't the weapon or the size of your opponent. It's the person who understands their environment and adapts fastest. Humans might not have exoskeletons or acid sacs or psionic abilities, but we have pattern recognition and problem solving. We survive by thinking 3 moves ahead. Your world shaped you for constant adaptation, I said, understanding clicking into place like a properly assembled plasma rifle. Every organism on Earth is either predator or prey. Sometimes both simultaneously. Your evolution demanded flexibility over specialization. Exactly, Maya nodded. Plus, my planet tries to kill us regularly, so we got good at not dying. Natural selection is a harsh teacher, but super effective. The dry humor in her voice while discussing planetary death threats was somehow more unsettling than the combat display. Alright, I said, formulating a new lesson plan on the fly. Miss Torres, since you have clearly mastered basic disarmament, perhaps you could assist me in demonstrating counter techniques. What you did to Breakdar works against opponents unfamiliar with human tactics. But what happens when your opponent knows what you are capable of? Maya's eyes lit up with something I recognized from my most dedicated students. Enthusiasm. Now we are talking, she said. We spent the next standard hour in what became less of a class and more of an impromptu seminar on human combat philosophy. Maya demonstrated various techniques while I attempted counter moves. She was faster than her size suggested, her reaction time was absolutely absurd, and her ability to read body language across species was uncanny. You telegraph your strikes, she explained after dodging my practice blade for the 5th consecutive time. Right before you commit to an attack, your posterior left arm tensors contract by about 3 millimeters. It's subtle, but visible if you know what to look for. I have been fighting for 30 cycles, I protested. Nobody has ever mentioned this. Because nobody from your species fights someone actively trying to kill them from birth, Maya replied. No offense, but most Federation worlds are pretty safe. Regulated predators, controlled environments, logical violence with rules. Earth doesn't have rules. Earth has consequences. The observation deck of the Galactic Preparedness Academy hummed with its usual morning tension. I adjusted my 4 ocular lenses, focusing on the training arena below where today's class was about to begin. My name is Vex Nari, senior combat instructor for the past 11 cycles, and I had seen everything. Or so I thought. Instructor Vex, the new transfer student has arrived, my teaching assistant Quillen chirped, his antennae twitching nervously. I glanced at the data pad. Species, human. Origin, Earth. Classification, Death World Survivor. Age equivalent, 17 standard years. My throat sacs contracted involuntarily. A human. Here. At the academy, when the doors slid open, I expected something monstrous. The galaxy's rumors about humans were legendary, terrifying, absolutely insane. They came from a planet that actively tried to kill them daily. Their world had storms that could level cities, animals that hunted for sport, invisible organisms that caused plagues, and weather patterns that shifted from freezing to boiling within hours. What walked through the door was a small, fragile-looking female with skin the color of terracotta clay and dark hair pulled back in something called a ponytail. She wore the standard academy uniform, which looked comically oversized on her tiny frame. Her forward-facing eyes scanned the room with an intensity that made my scales itch. You must be Instructor Vex, she said, her voice steady despite being surrounded by beings twice her size. I'm Maya Torres. Sorry I'm late. The gravity settings in my quarters were calibrated wrong and I woke up floating near the ceiling. Several students snickered. Breakdar, a Crowan warrior caste standing nearly 8 feet tall, laughed loudest. His kind were known throughout the Federation as unstoppable fighters, their exoskeletons capable of withstanding plasma fire. A human, Breakdar rumbled, his mandibles clicking with amusement. They sent us a fragile little primate. How adorable. Maya's expression didn't change. She simply turned, met his eyes, and smiled. Not a friendly smile. Something else entirely. Something that made my survival instincts scream. Right, I said quickly, trying to regain control. Miss Torres, welcome to Advanced Combat Theory and Application. Take a seat near the back. We were just about to begin practical demonstrations. She nodded and moved through the classroom with surprising grace for someone in different gravity. Every student watched her. Some with curiosity. Most with poorly hidden contempt. I activated the holo display, bringing up today's lesson. Weapons disarmament techniques, level 4 certification. Standard stuff, really. Combat encounters, I began, my translator converting my clicks and whistles into standard Galactic common, are rarely about brute strength. They are about leverage, timing, and understanding your opponent's physiology. Today we will practice disarming techniques using simulation weapons. I gestured to Quillen, who distributed practice blades to the students. They were standard issue training equipment, weighted and balanced to match real combat knives but with dulled edges and neural dampeners. Brekdar, since you seem energized today, please come forward as our first volunteer. The Crowan warrior stood, his massive form casting shadows across half the classroom. He grabbed his practice blade with 3-fingered hands, each digit as thick as my forearm. Who will face him? I asked, scanning the room. Silence. Brekdar was undefeated in combat trials. Nobody wanted to embarrass themselves. I'll do it, Maya said, standing up. The classroom erupted in whispers. Quillen's antennae went rigid with shock. Even I felt my respiratory system flutter. Miss Torres, I said carefully, perhaps you should observe first. Learn our methods before participating. Brekdar has been training in 17 different martial systems since he was a juvenile. I understand, she replied, walking toward the practice area. But I learn better by doing. This was going to be a disaster. I made a mental note to have medical standing by. Maya stood in the practice circle, looking absurdly small next to Brekdar. The Crowan warrior held his blade in what we called the predator stance, edge forward, weight distributed for quick strikes. Perfect form. Begin when ready, I announced, immediately regretting this decision. Brekdar moved first, a testing strike, probably aiming to scare rather than hurt. His blade swept toward Maya's midsection in a controlled arc. What happened next took exactly 2.3 seconds. I know because I reviewed the security footage 17 times afterward.